Bill Maher called out CNN's Kaitlan Collins on the network's bias. Let's watch.
You made press because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight. And the crowd burst into laughter.
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And
I'm talking about the people on CNN. And what I know what the conservative side of America thinks, and I don't blame them. They were just gushing about how great a speech it was. And I think she did fine. I didn't think it was as good as they were making it out to be. It does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. In a way, I feel like it's more insulting than what Trump does. And Trump says you're the enemy of the people, which is pretty bad. What she's kind of saying is, I don't need you. I'm not talking to you. You don't matter. You're not relevant anymore. To me, that's even worse than I hate you. It's like, I don't think about you.
I don't know if it's worse than denigrating the press on a daily basis, which is what Donald Trump.
Recently, we showed you Bill Maher absolutely roasting Kaitlan Collins for her relentless attacks on Karoline Leavitt. You'd think that would be enough to make her take a step back, but no. Instead of backing off, the CNN anchor doubled down, going after Leavitt, Trump, and even Elon Musk with even more aggressive jabs. But Bill, he wasn't about to let that slide. This time, his response was even sharper. An absolute masterclass in takedowns. And lucky for you, we've got all the receipts. Buckle up, because this one's pure fireworks. Let's get into it.
That environment wasn't just created by Donald Trump.
Okay, but can I say, you can't blame, and everyone wants your dad to be safe. No one wants the threats against his life to happen, but you can't blame the media for those threats. There's been no evidence that's what drove those.
And allows people to have a platform to call someone literally Hitler every day for 9 years, it creates it.
Okay.
Whether you want to believe it or not, that's a fact.
But as you know, J.D. Vance once likened your dad to Hitler as well. He questioned if he was America's Hitler.
We'll get to the Billiard takedown in a moment, but first, let's talk about why Bill Maher, a guy who voted for Biden, suddenly sounds like he's aligning with Republicans. The truth is, mainstream media has been laying traps for Trump long before he even won the election, and leading the charge, none other than CNN's Kaitlan Collins. That clip we just saw, a textbook gotcha attempt. Collins wasn't asking a question, she was setting a trap. If Trump declared support for Ukraine, he'd be painted as a warmonger, dragging the US into World War III. If he leaned toward Russia, the media would brand him a traitor, a no-win scenario. But here's the thing, Trump isn't new to this game. He saw it coming a mile away and dodged it effortlessly, stating he didn't want to see any more lives lost, Ukrainian or Russian, a strategic move that left his critics scrambling. And if there's one thing the media elite can't stand, it's losing control of their narrative, so instead of backing off, they doubled down.
Was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
Collins get away with her usual tactics. Right then and there, he called her out. And honestly, he had every reason to. Instead of asking a direct question, Collins kept weaving in commentary, dragging things out like she was trying to run down the clock. Classic CNN playbook. It was obvious what was happening. This wasn't about getting real answers, it was about setting a trap. Her strategy? Throw out a convoluted no-win question designed to trip Trump up, catch him off guard, or better yet, extract a soundbite the media could replay on a loop for days. But Trump saw it coming from a mile away. Like a seasoned fighter, he dodged, deflected, and then hit back with a counter-strike that left Collins scrambling. 1 second, she thought she had him cornered. The next, she was the one caught off guard. Brutal, and let's be real, this wasn't her first attempt. She's tried this play before, but as always, Trump turned the tables on her. Yet that didn't stop her. This time, she upped the ante, shifting her focus to Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr.
There was what you would have to call some sort of media suppression of Hunter Biden's computer right before the election.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Okay,
and the truth is, I still don't know what I think about that. And sometimes,
right.
But I mean, to actually parse everything in there and figure out just how dirty Biden Sr. is as a result of the information there.
Can I go to step 2? But nothing really. It was common. It was the kind of sort of everyday graft that's sleazy, but doesn't affect the world. Probably.
Yes.
Hunter Biden sold his father's influence to get money But Joe Biden himself would not give away our nuclear secrets to the Chinese. He's not, he has a soft spot for his son, his ne'er-do-well, stupid.
I mean, you've heard his voicemails to his Hunter.
So, like, Dad, I'm in a little bit of a jam. Could you just meet with the Chinese guy next week? It would mean a lot to me. And Joe would do it, and then Hunter would get the money for the meeting.
This explosive exchange erupted right after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Wasting no time, Trump Jr. fired back, blaming the media for stoking the flames. His argument? For nearly a decade, mainstream outlets have relentlessly portrayed his father as a modern-day Hitler, a dictator determined to bring America to its knees. They've mocked him, vilified him, and turned him into a political boogeyman. And then came the smug remark from Kaitlan Collins, casually pointing out that J.D. Vance once compared Trump to Hitler. But here's the reality. Vance never had the media's vast influence, nor did his words carry the same weight. Early on, he may have bought into the anti-Trump narrative, but once he got to know Trump firsthand, he saw through the propaganda. So is it any surprise that Bill Maher snapped? He sees the hypocrisy, the double standards, and the damage caused by years of media-driven smear campaigns. And this time, he wasn't about to let them slide.
You made press because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight, and the crowd burst into laughter. Look, I'm on CNN now. I guess we're on it right now. I mean, they show this show the next night. I don't know how we get away with it with all the fucks, but they do. And all these dirty jokes. But I'm glad, and I'm a big rooter for CNN. But that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with that?
How is CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have Ted Cruz on.
Bill Maher had reached his breaking point with the media's blatant double standards. To him, Kaitlan Collins and her colleagues weren't just reporting the news. They were actively shaping it, crafting a one-sided narrative that painted Biden as untouchable and Trump as the ultimate villain. It wasn't journalism. It was political theater. For years, their coverage had been laser-focused on tearing Trump down, twisting his every word, spinning every headline, and fueling an endless cycle of outrage. But when the scandals landed on their own side, silence. Take Hunter Biden, for example. His laptop leak exposed a web of corruption, influence peddling, and shady foreign deals. Yet mainstream networks buried the story as if it never existed. Now imagine if Donald Trump Jr. had even a fraction of Hunter's baggage. CNN would have dedicated entire primetime specials dissecting every detail. The contrast was impossible to ignore. And for Bill Maher, it was the final straw. He saw through the hypocrisy, calling out what many had suspected for years. The media wasn't just biased, it had become a political machine in disguise. And this time, Maher wasn't about to let them off the hook. That's how chaotic things became when the Hunter Biden scandal blew up. And honestly, we're probably lucky he didn't sweet-talk his dad into handing over the nuclear codes for a quick payday. Because given his history, would anyone really be surprised? This is a guy who has traded access, influence, and who knows what else. Yet the media keeps pretending he's just a troubled soul with personal struggles. Meanwhile, Trump is painted as the ultimate villain. The double standard is beyond ridiculous. If Trump Jr. had even a fraction of Hunter's scandals, the media would be demanding his public execution. The hypocrisy is glaring. When Trump so much as breathes, it's a scandal. But when hard evidence of corruption, shady deals, and influence peddling surfaces against Hunter, silence, crickets. And that's exactly why people like Bill Maher, who once leaned left, are finally speaking up. At some point, even lifelong Democrats have to admit this isn't journalism, it's pure propaganda, and leading the charge, Kaitlan Collins. So when Kaitlan finally sat down with Bill Maher for an interview, we all knew sparks would fly, but no one was prepared for what came next. An absolute takedown that left no room for spin. The question now is, what happens next? Will the mainstream media finally address the corruption they've ignored for so long? Or will they double down, hoping the public stays distracted? One thing is certain, this story isn't over, not even close. What do you think? Is the Hunter Biden scandal being swept under the rug, or is the truth finally catching up? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is just getting started.